Welcome to another episode of Simon Says, where facts come first. I'm your host, Jenny Simon. Grab your drink, grab your popcorn, grab the kids, call the neighbors, call your friends, your auntie, your nene, your nieces, your nephews, your cousins. Tell them Simon Says is on. We'll take a quick break and come right back. Thank you for tuning in to Simon Says. To ensure that you never miss an episode, click subscribe and make sure to turn on the notifications by clicking on the notification bell icon. See you at the next episode. Welcome back. Welcome back. So, as usual, we'll have probably a little news, a little update, the meat of the matter. So we'll start off with Andy and Tevin, ministers of our government, Minister Andy Williams from the MIT and Minister Tevin Andrew for Carriacou and Petite Martinique Affairs. They traveled to Jamaica to campaign for the PNP party just days before the general election, which was held yesterday, the 3rd of September 2025. Let's hear what Andy had to say.
So guys, we travel all from Grenada. We took about 5 flights to be here because we said our sister party could not be taking part in elections in Jamaica and we stay in Grenada. So greetings from our Prime Minister, the Honorable Dickie Mitchell. And he said to Andy and Kevin, make sure you are in Jamaica to support your sister party in Jamaica. So we are behind you 100%. And let me tell you something. We never back a losing horse. So I can tell you, be guaranteed that we are going to take this thing. So get your uncle, your sister, your mother, your father, your nana, everyone out on election day. Because when election day comes, PNP will be the party in charge of Jamaica. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
So Andy said he took 5 flights to get there. 5 flights to get there. Now, I wonder why, when in fact they could have taken 2 flights. You go to Miami from Grenada with American Airlines, and from Miami, 2 steps to Jamaica. Now, it is rumored that Tevin do not have a US visa at the moment. His US visa, it is rumored out there that his US visa was revoked. And not for the same reason that Minister Cornwall's own was revoked. But I'll keep that still as I do my investigation. So we could ask the question, is it true Minister Tevin Andrew is not in the possession of a US visa as we speak? Now, I didn't tell you guys. I keep forgetting, as a matter of fact. There's so much things to tell you a story that I heard, that during the Afrexim Bank Forum, NDC had a CMan in Grenada from Barbados. And the CMan tell them that the NNP caretakers for the South and for St. David, Christopher Dialli Jr. and Ms. Nolene Thompson, they should step aside. They should leave this one out. Don't take part in this coming election. Take part in the next one. Now, why? You see, a man is saying why, just saying what they should do. But my sister Nolene, even before the CMN, got messages that she should sit this one out because this is Prime Minister's Deacon's last election. He's not going to go further than 2. And that if she sit this one out, by the next one, she'll have St. David's all to herself. Trickery. That we ain't taking trickery. We're moving full force ahead. Now, to get back to Tevin and Andy in Jamaica, they have left their constituencies. They have left Grenada with a tonload of issues. A tonload of issues. But they're going to Jamaica to help win an election. If they continue this NDC administration as they're going, they are taking Grenada, they are taking us down a rabbit hole. Soon enough, Grenadians will have to either to get a visa to enter most countries, or we will be totally banned from some countries. Let's listen to Tevin in Jamaica.
Comrades, brothers and sisters, we came all the way from Grenada to be here with you to support Comrade Buchanan and Team PNP. We understand the importance of this election. It's a very crucial and important election, and we shouldn't make any mistakes. Hence, we traveled miles to be here with you, to support you, and to ensure that we see the backs of LP and Andrew Holness. So on election day, comrades, you have only one choice. One choice in this constituency. I have absolutely no doubt that time comes for it. On the day of the election, the 3rd, my sisters and brothers, you go there and you place the X.
See the back of Andrew Holness. Andrew Holness is in your way, right, Kevin? Well, Prime Minister Andrew Holness won with 7,054 votes, 58.75%, and Buchanan, 4,953 votes, 41.25%. Now, nothing wrong with supporting a sister party. But as a politician, and as a matter of fact, as an MP, respect and decorum should play an important role in your delivery. I hope you both managed to get out of Jamaica safe and sound. It's just bare arrogance. And what is worse, you have a whole plethora of issues here in Grenada, in your constituencies of the South, St. George, and of Carriacou and Petit Martinique. Issues that you have no clue how to fix. According to Andy, the Prime Minister sent them 2 corrupt politicians, and you want to see the back of Andrew Holness? Come on. In Carriacou, Teacher Rosa was removed from the post of Area Education Officer, EO, for Carriacou and Petit Martinique, and replaced by the wife of the former permanent secretary, Mr. Javon Williams, a position given to her by her husband before he was sent to Grenada. He was transferred to Grenada. Now, Mrs. Williams was asked, or she asked, to be transferred to Grenada. I guess she wants to be with her husband. Information reaching me is that she was not getting the cooperation from the teachers and principals. And so, out of frustration, she asked to be transferred. Because remember, she has that daycare in Carriacou. So, what are you running from? Right? Now, she got transferred, and so she is in Grenada from this term, right? A couple of days ago, school from Monday. She is in Grenada in the education system in Grenada. And the position of EO in the Carriacou is now vacant. Kevin in Jamaica, he ain't have a clue what's going on. That position is vacant. And that is because when they removed teacher Rosa, she was never given position what she's supposed to do now in Carriacou. So she's at home twiddling her thumbs while she waits. And the position of education officer in Carriacou and Petit Martinique, it's now vacant. As you said, Tevin, you know that there are persons in Carriacou and Petit Martinique still living in inhumane conditions. Fix that. Fix that. What happened to the Build Back Better project? It's ended. Only a few people were able to get, a dozen persons were able to get Build Back Better houses. And some of which, as I understand it, they're refusing to accept because it was built in the dump. Literally built in the dump. And people, the flies, they can't keep the flies and so out of their homes. How can you guys build homes for person in the dump? That's some serious stuff. So before you leave here and go into Jamaica and show off, Andy said they don't back a losing horse. He never backs a losing horse. Well, that must not be a horse, maybe a donkey, but they lost. They lost. And in the words of a Jamaican, dance a yard before you dance abroad. I may not have gotten the accent correct, but mind your business. And we used to say growing up, take the cacache out of your eyes before you go and try to take it out of somebody else. Now, a young lady applied for a scholarship, was interviewed, and then she received the notice from the Ministry of Education letting her know she was awarded the scholarship and congratulated on her achievement. Now, I mean, that's a great feat for any young person who is trying to further their education and can't afford it and receive an answer that they've been awarded the scholarship they applied for. And so the Ministry of Education is delighted to inform you that you have been awarded a scholarship to pursue your undergraduate program in sociology at the St. George's University. Congratulations on this significant achievement. This scholarship is a testament to your hard work and dedication, and the ministry is excited to see you take the next step in your academic and professional journey. As, as you prepare for the next chapter, please be advised that you will receive a follow-up communication with information regarding the collection and the signing of your bond agreement package. Should you have any questions, please contact the scholarship desk in the Human Resource Development Division, Ministry of Education, at telephone numbers 440-2737 and the other one. And an email address was also given. Please note that I have copied the Senior Human Resource Development Officer, Mrs. Yvonne Schoon, and the Human Resource Development Officer, Ms. Ashida Charles, in this email. Please reply to this email to confirm that you have received the information. Once again, congratulations. And the government of Grenada wishes you all the best as you embark on this exciting new journey. Okay? Happy as a lark. Later on, she received another email. This time, it's not such a happy moment. And let me pull up that one. It's several ones there. And it reads, "Dear whoever the young lady is, the Human Resource Development Division sincerely apologizes for the miscommunication in our previous communication dated August the 20th, 2025. The correspondence you received was an administrative oversight, and we deeply regret any confusion or inconvenience this may have caused. The division wishes to thank you for your kind understanding and regards, right? Ms. Cazell Gilbert, Development Officer, Human Resource Department, Division, Ministry of Education, right? And so the young lady, a bit puzzled, wrote back, "Thank you for the clarification. Does this mean I did not get the scholarship, or is it still pending?" And then she received an answer. She wrote again, because I guess she didn't get an answer. And she wrote again, "Good day. I would like to know what that mean now. Does that mean that what was sent in the previous email doesn't apply to me?" And then she got an answer which said to her, basically, to clarify, the congratulatory email does not apply to you. Again, we sincerely apologize for the confusion this may have caused. Right? No. No. How on earth do you treat a young person in this manner? No, she applied. I'm almost certain she's qualified. According to you, you made a mistake. No, what I want to know is, When was the mistake made? At which point? When you found out her politics? Or not her, but her parents' politics? All of a sudden, there was an administrative mistake, right? Folks, victimization continues amongst the youth. I guess they found out who the young lady's parents are after the fact, after she qualified for the scholarship and was given the scholarship, right? At that moment, even if someone said, well, the parents yellow, that's how, or green. That's how they say the parents green, right? That's how it is come across. I was recently told that my daughter, somebody recommended her to sing the anthem in some event. And the reply was, Jenny Simon daughter? Simon says daughter? No. That can't happen. They continue to suppress our young people, the same young people that they campaign about promoting, about giving opportunities by merit. They continue to suppress these young people. But when the Prime Minister announced to the world that we must know, they must know who their people are, and then the other people won't get what they should get. And I'm not making this up. This might sound like something that I am making up, coming from the mouth of a prime minister. So, listen.
We need to know one another. They have senior members and junior members and those who just joined. We need to know that all of us belongs to the National Democratic Congress. So we can't just argue and fight for what I will get, what I will get, what I will get, when you don't know your people. So sometimes the reason the other side getting is because we're not saying who are the real NDC people who need to get, because we don't know one another enough. So if we are telling the MP or the caretaker, these are our people, and let's go see them or bring the people, then we will know each other better.
You heard him. You heard him for yourself. If they know who their people are, the other side will not get. You must tell your MPs and your constituency people who you are and show them who the NDC people are, so that the other side will not get. I guess this young lady, that's her fate, right? They found out who she was, and so she should not get to further her education under this NDC administration. An update on the US-Cuba-Grenada triangle, although now it's a square with the addition of Venezuela. In my August 15th episode of Simon Says, dubbed NDC Keeps Dragging Grenada into Trouble, I warned that picking sides was dangerous. I played you clips of both Minister Joseph Andel and Minister Dennis Cornwall. Minister Joseph Andel being our Minister of Foreign Affairs, and Minister Dennis Cornwall, our Minister of Finance, as they clearly and blatantly chose sides. They chose Cuba. Lest we forget, here are Ministers Joseph Andel and Minister Dennis Cornwall, as they chose to stand by Cuba.
Cuba. Cuba continues to be a trustworthy friend and partner, not only of Grenada, not only of the Caribbean, but of peoples the world over. When the COVID pandemic broke out, Cuban doctors went as far as Italy to provide services. I didn't hear anybody talk about human trafficking or nothing like that. Mr. Speaker, we have not just a legal obligation, we have a moral and ethical obligation to stand by the people of Cuba. Were it not for the selfless support of Cuba, many of us would not have had the opportunities for further education that we got. On the other side, the honorable member from St. Mark, testament of that. The table not for that. No. The renowned economist, Honorable Chotai, Brother Dennis Cornwall, and myself for a brief period. Our health infrastructure would collapse without the generous intervention of Cuba. And for that, we must always take a principled stand and at all costs avoid being opportunistic or transactional as it relates to the relationship between Cuba and Grenada. So the Prime Minister led a delegation to Cuba on an official visit, and again, a number of very important cooperation agreements were signed. Health, education, environment, culture, and so on. Mr. Speaker, going back to travel again. In 2023,
and I want to ask you this question of being a part of the cabinet here in Grenada. I want to ask you this question. We have heard that the U.S. intention to impose that visa restriction on all all government officials, I should say, yourself, your family included. If Grenada and all other countries do not immediately engage the Cuban medical professionals, what is the volume of Cuban involvement in Grenada's health? If you could answer that for me, also healthcare system, and what damage can this do to the health system here in Grenada? And if I could continue along that lines, a couple of multiple points of this question. No definite statement, I would say, has been made on the issue by your government, if I could say that, thus far, with the exception of saying thanks to the Cubans. Is your cabinet and other senior government officials willing to give up their U.S. visas, to keep Cuba healthcare professionals in Grenada system? And if not, what are the alternatives being discussed? Are there any alternatives being discussed thus far by cabinet members?
Well, I always believe that you have to put the people above one political self. And in that sense, I believe that my government has already cited that we are prepared to go to the extreme to make sure that we keep our people safe. So if it means that we have to give up our visa rights to the US to make sure that Grenada stands behind Cuba as one of the countries that supported Grenada in thick and thin. I personally was one of the persons who graduated from Cuba University back in the days and so on. I got a scholarship to Cuba. And as such, I have a moral obligation to support the Cubans in every way. So if it means that the government of the US decided to take away our visas because we support the Cuban initiative, I would say so be it.
Yeah.
The Cuban doctors and nurses who have visited our shows over the years and perform a valuable service for our people. We complain every day that the service in the hospital is bad. But we have Grenadians who are graduated from St. George universities, Grenadians, and they are not here to basically support the health system. So if we can depend on the Cuban graduates to basically help the system until we can fix it to a point, I would say so be it. And I'll fully support the Cubans at any time, anywhere, because I think they are doing a very useful and human service to the government of Grenada and the people of Grenada.
Now, Minister Ander, a former member and candidate for the Morris Bishop Patriotic Movement, the MBPM, and a graduate from Cuba, made it clear he's sticking with Cuba. So did Minister Cornwall, the Minister of Finance. he too is standing by Cuba enough to give up his visa. He said, and I quote, his government is willing to give up their visas to stand by Cuba. He said he studied in Cuba and has a moral obligation to support Cuba in every way. Now, I have a question, Before these two gentlemen became politicians, went into politics, became candidates for and MPs for the NDC in 2022, did they ever return to Cuba after their studies on a vacation just to visit people they might have met there, colleagues? Did they ever? And when they have to take a vacation, did they purchase tickets too? When they have to take, because they all over, they have to stand by Cuba. We went to school there and we have to stand by Cuba. And if you all want your visas, take it back. But we stand in with Cuba. So if it means, this is Dennis Cornwell continuing. So if it means, and I'm quoting here, that the US decides to take away our visa, I would say, so be it. Okay? Hello? No one is saying turn your backs on Cuba or be ungrateful to Cuba. Some of us know all too well, without the aid and scholarships from Cuba, that a lot of our grassroots intellectuals would not have gotten the opportunity to further their education, to specialize. You're looking at one here. My sister became a medical doctor after the 1979 revolution. She was among the first batch of students to go to Cuba, and she studied medicine. It so happened that the demise of the revolution came before she was able to finish off and specialize. So she did so in Jamaica. And now she's an OBGYN specialist. It was Cuba that gave her and the others the break. And so, as I'm saying, there is no need to be ungrateful. However, if we listen to what the Trump administration is saying, to me, it's actually helping out the Cubans. They are saying, give the Cubans their full salaries in their hands. Do not send 65% of their monies back to Cuba, to the government of Cuba. These people have families. In the first place, they are separated from their families because they're not allowed to come with them. Of course, if your family come with you, you don't must come back and you. So their families remain in Cuba, right? And that 35% have to take care of them and their families. This is not fair. I remember stories from my sister where the students, their colleagues that sit next to them at the university, was not allowed to purchase soap and rice and get certain things, the luxuries that they had. It was minimal themselves. But the Cuban students were not allowed. So they would purchase and give them. Whatever they're allowed to purchase. When they do, they would, share it with them. Right there in Cuba, it happened. So if they're asking for better conditions for the Cubans. What's wrong with that? Why are we standing by Cuba? Aren't we listening to what they're saying? Are we paying attention to what the Trump administration is asking for? They're seeing it as human trafficking. And it might be a strong phrase to use. However, that's how they see it. And they're asking for it to be discontinued. Some of the doctors, the Cubans, when they come here, they try to stay. Some of them get married to stay. Some of them, they get citizenship here. Then they get visas. And what do? They use Grenada as a stepping stone and go to America. That's probably how the Americans know about what's going on with them in the first place. Right? They do not want to go back to that life. So, what is wrong with change? What is wrong with change? Anyways, so Minister Cornwall said he was willing to give up his visa to stand by Cuba. And so the US government withdrew their visa from Minister Dennis Cornwall in an article which reads, let me get that right here. Get my glasses as well. And here we're hearing this from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs after the fact, after it was published in a print media. And this here says St. George's, Grenada, the 21st of August, 2025. The government of Grenada, through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, today announced a meeting between Grenada's ambassador to the United States and a high-level delegation from the United States Department of State. The meeting, which took place on Tuesday, August 19, 2025, in Washington, D.C., was a follow-up to previous diplomatic exchanges and provide a valuable opportunity for both sides to engage in a direct and constructive dialogue. The government of Grenada views discussion as a positive step forward in strengthening mutual understanding and cooperation at the meeting. Now, you want mutual understanding and cooperation, and you're beating your chest about standing by Cuba. Something wrong with these people. I mean, where's the common sense in it? Just common sense, right? Now, at that meeting, the US confirmed that visa restrictions will be applied, and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has since received official notification that the restriction has been placed on the Minister of Finance. Notwithstanding this development, both sides reaffirmed their unwavering commitment to their nation's long-standing relationship. They have agreed to continue utilizing established diplomatic channels to address all matters of mutual concern in a solution-oriented manner. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs assures the public that it will continue to provide information as these diplomatic discussions proceed in a professional and responsible manner. Another weak letter or release, whatever you want to call it. Now, it is rumored that there are others whose visa were withdrawn. But remember, we only get information on a need-to-know basis. Now, here's what I warned against in my August 15th episode. Our cabinet members have to choose to say, I am sticking with Cuba. It shouldn't be like that. We should be able to say whether you're Canadian, you from the UK, you American, you Cuban, you from Morocco, wherever, that you all get treated the same way in Grenada, and that we're not human trafficking. We're not abusing anybody from any country, but that comes with communication, right? What did the government of Grenada do that may represent how this matter was treated in a deliberate, coherent, and international response to the issue? What has it done? Can the government of Grenada say to us that they have responded comprehensively to the US State Department on this issue? You see, this issue has nothing to do with politics and ideology, and therefore we should engage the US State Department. This is about the health, the well-being, the lives and the livelihood of our people, be it with Cuba or the USA, because we all engage these countries, right? Now, our foreign policy shows that the USA is our most important relationship with any country. So this pulling and say, we stand with Cuba, we standing with Cuba, that's hogwash. A non-partisan, non-political one. It is about us economically. What are we going to do with our fish, our tuna, our soursop, and the other fruits from Grenada that we can enter the USA with freely without the customs taking it away from us? What happens to that? What happens to our tourism product? Mostly survive on visitors from the USA, be it sleepover, be it cruise ship, be it overnight, the yachties, the catamarans, mostly tourists from the USA. Grenada has always had a special relationship with the USA. How have we fallen so far, so fast? Now, since then, quite recently, as recent as yesterday, the 3rd of September 2025, in another release from the Trump administration, and I'm going to read to you a snippet of it. Well, what concerns us anyway. It reads, beginning in January 12th. No, let me take that over. It reads, beginning in January, 12 nations will be fully barred from importing seafoods to the US. Beijing, Gambia, Grenada, Haiti, Iran, Namibia, and the whole host, up to 12, would be fully barred. And another 34 nations, including nations like Brazil, Chile, China, Indonesia, Mexico, Philippines, Vietnam, those will see some of their seafood products banned from the US markets. No, only some of this. But Grenada is among the ones that would be fully banned from January 2026. Now, we are yet to hear of any engagement with the Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell and the government of the USA, most specific, Senator Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State of the US State Department. And in the meantime, our situation with the USA is growing progressively worse. I mean, I can only say here, Lord help our fisher folks. Grenada is the only Caribbean island with the visa restriction for our officials. Well, they said in writing is to our officials, but Grenadians have been having major issues going to Barbados, trying to get a visa. Some is just visa renewal, and they have been turned away. They have been turned down, and it's noticeable more and more. We also in a jump up with all parcels, small packages containing goods destined for the United States, which are now suspended. And this follows US new regulations ending duty-free exemptions on items under $800, which now requires prepaid custom duties and complex electronic filings. Lord help our small-scale vendors who used to export the little spices and confectionaries and so to the US. And now we ranking with Russia and Gambia, Namibia and Venezuela, Haiti, and others. Well, St. Lucia is in it as well for the fish's sidekick, Deacon's sidekick, right? Fully barred from exporting fish to the USA. In the meantime, over the past 2 weeks, Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell been country hopping. He has, well, he really did try, give him that. He tried to stay down for a while. He did. Maybe a couple of months, 1 or 2 times he traveled, but he really did try to stay down. Give him that. He has reverted to the clouds. And yesterday, the 3rd of September, or maybe this morning, as I understand it, it could have been this morning. Well, yesterday I had to put out my feelers, and I was told he would be traveling to, and not any joke feelers, internationally. He would be traveling soon. And information reaching me is that he traveled to Algeria, and as of today, Thursday, the 4th, September 2025, and will be moving on to Ethiopia on Saturday, the 6th September 2025. In the meantime, we await a release from the government of Grenada, Prime Minister's office, Press Secretary, whoever does do that. We await that release telling us where the Prime Minister is at the moment, where he's heading to, and who is acting in his absence. Now, Africa has become his pet peeve. Is he begging for monies? Is he establishing business there? We know it's not about country, really. By now, as a Grenadian, you know these trips the Prime Minister make to Africa and Saudi Arabia, they're not about, it's not about country. We know that by now. So as soon as the carnival over, he took height. Barbados, Grenada, Trinidad, Barbados, Algeria, Ethiopia. In Barbados, speaking to the GIS on Carifesta and the wonderful job done by host country Barbados. This is what the Prime Minister had to say.
Thank you so much. First of all, let's talk about your impressions. You've been to a lot of boats, people keep stopping you. What are your impressions of what you've seen here?
Well, first of all, there's a lot of energy, a lot of creativity, and really unity. I think we got boots from all over the Caribbean, and it's showcasing the amazing talent, the creativity, the hard work, the culture, the business acumen, the entrepreneurship, and I think it's bringing all of us together. It shows that there's, I think, enormous potential for trade, for us to buy and support a lot of our local businessmen, women, entrepreneurs. And I'm hoping that coming out of this Sky Festa, not only that we have it every year in a different island, but that we can then generate trade, intra-Caribbean trade amongst people, because people see what is being made, what people are doing, and I think it's key for us to do that, because sometimes we assume the Caribbean doesn't have stuff, or we can't get clothes or shoes, or rum or candles, or straw hats or fans, and we have it all here. So I'm really, really impressed, and I'm happy that so many vendors have been able to be accommodated at the moment.
Do you think this is something that Grenada can host one year possibly?
Absolutely. I don't think there's any question that we can host Carifesta. If no one is putting up their hand to do so next year, I'm sure we will certainly consider doing it.
So a lot of the products are being sold here. What do you think that says? Because when I spoke to Ms. Narayan, she said that they are flying off the shelves. What does that say for small manufacturers in Grenada?
I think it's very encouraging, and it says that their work is of high quality. I think we have to help them make sure that they can get their products to the market, because it's clear that when people see whether it's the rum, whether it's the candles, whether it's the agro-processed stuff, that it's selling quickly, and I think that augurs well for small manufacturers in Grenada.
So, as far as you're concerned, this does well for regional integration?
Absolutely. Regional integration, regional trade, regional business, because people have to move, goods have to move, services have to move, and the more that happens is the more there's a resilience in our economic space, and the more that we keep the money circulating within our own economies rather than sending it outside of Grenada.
Prime Minister, just by way of information, Carifesta is held every 4 years, and Jamaica is up next. It's sad when you don't know that you don't know, and you think you know. I mentioned earlier that we are now in a square, and I mentioned Venezuela. Now, the silence towards that, and they're always silent. All these things happening regionally, internationally, and affecting us as a people. And we hear nothing officially from the Prime Minister, Minister of National Security, or the government in most cases. And then they come out with a flimsy press a release, a statement, as a matter of fact. That's not a press release. A flimsy statement. Oh, that's why we're meeting with you and we'll keep you up to date. Right? We're hearing nothing about what's going on with Venezuela now, and where are we with that? Now, as I said, the silence is deafening towards this whole Venezuela saga. Now, lest we forget, Grenada is a member of ALBA. And so we're there with Venezuela. And are we standing by our ALBA colleague? Are we? Where are we? Where are we? And are we saying silent is consent? You know that, right? So why aren't we speaking out? Right? Only recently, maybe a few months ago, I don't think it's more than 2 months ago, the Prime Minister was in Venezuela. He visited Venezuela. He visited Maduro for the first time. That was his maiden visit to Venezuela. Looking for money. What are you looking for? We don't know, because he is obviously searching for something, right? He visited. There are photos everywhere. If you look on the screen, you can see of him and Maduro. So, where are you? What's Grenada's position? Folks, I'm just going to say here that we are not in a position to antagonize the USA. Or should I say, to continue to antagonize the USA? Because we have been doing so recently. What are we getting from Cuba and Venezuela that's worth antagonizing the USA? However, nearly half of our imports comes from the USA. More Grenadians live in the USA than in most countries per capita, per thousands. We have to be cautious on these matters. We have to think country and not self. CBI revenues are declining, and we have added expenditure. Salaries increases. We're hiring an exorbitant amount of advisors, personal assistants. We have executive secretary cameramen that we have to travel with all the time. Chief of staff. The Chief of Staff, Teddy St. Louis, the Executive Secretary, Ms. Akira Lessie, photographer Dwayne Thomas. They're always on the travel list. And then whoever else he feels to take with him at any given time for the ride. So in some cases, 6, 8, 10, 13 persons traveling in business class. Sometimes Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell has no interest in the welfare of the people of Grenada. The farmers, the fisher folks, the small business owners, the poor and the vulnerable, yes, the poor and the vulnerable, the ordinary man, so to speak, the people of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique on a whole. No interest. It's about enriching himself, his friends, and their families. Just that little group at the top. Now, I've been paying attention for some time now without commenting. Now, anytime the NDC is pushed against the wall or held chokehold on the rope, their means of trying to cut loose is by bringing up, in some and most instances, some 15 years ago in some cases, old tales, 15 years old, 10 years old. The Fall Farm, the Shrimp Farm, the call center, Mount Hatman projects, the Livera projects. Now the NMP want 2 clean sweep elections, 15-0, after all of those happened. So definitely a non-factor in voters making up their minds who they should vote for. Fall Farm, Shrimp Farm, all of them was there before. Been there. Most of these projects, with the exception of 1 or 2, was CBI projects. And of course, of its inception, it was clear there was some hiccups and issues with due diligence. It wasn't tight enough. And we encountered fellas like E.J. Miller and the Overson brothers, cooks and conmen. Yeah, I know about it. I spoke about it before. when I was on the NDC Heartbeat program, fellas like E.J. Miller who came here and saw a way, the loophole, to leave with our money, right? And that is during the former administration time, the Overson brothers in Livera, in the Livera project. E.J. Miller was in the Mount Atman, one of the ones down at Mount Atman. Yes, we know about all of those. But after all this happened, NNP won, as I said, 2 clean sweep elections, 15-0. So definitely, it had no bearing. So to keep bringing that up now, every time for a farm, trim farm, come with something else. Let's hear what you have now on the NNP in comparison. But the former administration did learn from their mistakes and amended the CBI, tightened on the bolt and nuts, and came up with a revised version of the CBI program. This is the same revised version the NDC met in office on entering in June of 2022 and continue to use to date. No amendment was done, even if the NDC party in opposition condemned the program and condemned it from the highest levels. Now, this is a former PRO of the NDC, now Attorney General and Legal Affairs Minister for the Deacon Mitchell-led administration. Here is Claudette, aka Cinti daughter, in a press conference alongside the former Prime Minister and the leader of the then NDC, Tillman Thomas, as they condemned and made demands from the former administration on the CBI program.
NDC therefore demands that there must be substantial changes to the CBI law now. These changes must include 1. Making it a criminal offense punishable by long jail time to sell diplomatic passports. 2. Making it mandatory for the names, addresses, and countries of origins of all persons applying for and obtaining CBI status to be published. 3. Making it illegal for government officials to invest in CBI-approved project. This is a clear conflict of interest. 4. Requiring stringent due diligence that is not influenced by government officials. 5. Removing some of the powers of the minister into the hands of an independent, qualified body. And 6. Barring persons acquiring CBI status from being able to vote in our elections.
Now today, Claudette is in the perfect position to make these changes. If she name woman, remove some of these things from Deacon hands. He is the line minister. Remove it from his hands. She is in the position, the perfect position, as Attorney General and Minister for Legal Affairs to make the changes she's been advocating for. And where is Tillman Thomas? You see his face there, pink as a rose. Pink as a rose in disgust, as Cinti daughter delivered. Where is he now? And then there was V. Nazim Burke as leader of the NDC after the stepping down of Tillman Thomas as leader. Now here's what he thought of the CBI program.
And we wish to take this opportunity today to make it very clear that an NDC administration would put an end to the sale of the Grenadian passport, and we will scrap the NNP CBI program. We will scrap the NNP CBI program. This program, as we see it, is not in our best interest in the way that it is being administered. We must make it absolutely clear that as far as we are concerned, the Grenada passport is not a commodity. It's an instrument of national identity. And what must be happening is that our government should be acting as the custodians of our passport, not as the merchants of our.
And how can we forget his favorite line in reference to the CBI program while in opposition? And I quote, "They're selling our passport like fish cakes by the side of the road." Today, V. Nazimberg, who was prepared to end the CBI program, scrap it. Today, V. Nazimberg is rubbing shoulders with Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell, and instead of his continued advocacy for scrapping the CBI program, he has joined the program and today is an agent for selling passports like fish cakes by the side of the road. Today, my friends, passports are not selling like fish cakes. They are selling like rivers. You all know the rivers, the rum? Nothing could sell more than alcohol in this country. And that's what it's selling like. Not sure if Tillman and Nazim and Sinti daughter know this, but from July 2022 to September 2023, 4,342 CBI citizens were approved. Government earned $239.5 million as of September 2023, classified as non-tax revenue. Folks, the previous Keith Mitchell-led administration and his cabinet approved 7,472 new citizens between January 2017 to June 2022. Hear me now. 7,472 new citizens between January of 2017 and June of 2023. 8,512 new citizens approved in 24 months. That is in 2 years by this Deacon-led administration, right? Cabinet approved 3,034 new citizens between January and June of 2024. Approved applicants from China, 22%, Nigeria, 23% for the first quarter of 2024. The first quarter of 2024, 3,034 new citizens. As of July 2024, the Ministry of Finance and the IMA and the CBI website provides breakdown of the program. So this is something you can go on the IMA website and see for yourself. Now, since the change of government in June of 2022, over 8,000 people have been granted Grenada citizenship by the cabinet. In 5 years, the former administration approved 7,472 new citizens in 2 years. the Deacon Mitchell-led administration approved 8,000 new citizens. Government revenue for the same period, according to a review of fiscal report from July 2022 to June 2024, totaled EC $753.4 million. The total for the 24 months, the 2 years period, was 8,512. The CBI program began in 2014 under the former New National Party administration, and until June 2022, the government approved 7,472 new citizens. That's what Mr. Book complained about, was selling like fish cakes, right? No, that's for 8 years. For 8 years, 7,472 new citizens for 8 years. The year 2024 marked the program's 10th anniversary, and a review of the Ministry of Finance data and the IMA website shows that the total number of citizenship approved through the program is 15,984. The Cabinet of Ministers has the final say in granting or rejecting new citizens under the CBI program. So as I mentioned, all but one of those mentioned products was CBI programs. One, the full farm, was a PPP, private-public partnership, and the shrimp farm was a CBI project. Of course, Mount Hatman, Livera, they were all CBI projects. Now, the formal and professional name for the shrimp farm was the Grenada Sustainable Aquaculture, and it was an approved project by the CBI. Its inception, February 18th, in a document dated the 2nd of March 2018, addressed to Ms. Keisha Ince, the then chairperson of the Grenada Citizenship by Investment Committee, St. George's, Grenada, re-account of funds spent by Grenada Sustainable Aquaculture, no, aka the shrimp farm. It read, "Dear Ms. Ince, kindly accept this as our official reporting to your committee for accounting of funds spent by the company and its principal. To date, we have counted 55 completed CBI cases as per previous communications, and it gives a list of the companies, that is the GSA, the Grenada Sustainable Aquaculture, aka the shrimp farm, expenses. It gives a list of the expenses from its inception, February 2018. 4 pages of figures of the expenses. Now, we're going to put it up on the side so you can see for yourself. It's a lot to read, right? A total of 27,734,500. All the expenses totaled $27,734,500. I further wish to confirm Grenada's sustainable aquaculture, in accordance with amended act, holds corporate account, and it gives 2 account numbers and one in EC dollars and one in US, which we will continuously fund as we now begin to undertake full-scale construction and land development on our designated land plot, Bocage Estate, St. Mark. Come March the 5th, 2018, the company will apply with Grenada Cooperative Bank to establish a further account and report to your committee on a quarterly basis or as otherwise requests, signed by Soreen A. Dowdy, director, and that's the director of the shrimp farm. Up until then, things were going okay. Now that information, they came from the Attorney General's office. I am doing this to say that to continue to blame the former administration, shrimp farm, as though members of their cabinet or administration pocket the monies, is misleading. It is false. And I'm going to show it to you. This is what I'm bringing to you, the people of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique, and those of you in the diaspora and otherwise looking on. So after this, we hope the shrimp farm story disappears. Now here's another document from the Solicitor General or the Deputy Attorney General on the screen from Ms. Karen Reed Ballantyne. Now, in that email, Ms. Reed Ballantyne documented all that she had pertaining to the case for conversation. The email was to Ms. Colleen Purcell, and at that time, she was the acting CEO of the CBI unit. Now, Ms. Colleen Purcell is still at the CBI unit, I think, as the deputy CEO. That email was copied to Ms. Dia Forrester, who was then the Attorney General, and Ms. Carleen Adams. It was also copied to Mr. Mike Sylvester, the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Finance, who is still the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Finance. Now, this information came from the Attorney General Chambers. Now, the email from Ms. Reed Ballantyne was dated March the 10th, 2022 at 1:20 p.m. And the documented report went back as far as 2016 when GSA made their first application to the program. Now let us move down to number 18. It's up on the screen. You can click the document. Number 18 in the document, bullets, by letter from the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of National Security. It was indicated that notice of suspension of acceptance of the GSA applications be given online, that negotiations with Mr. Dowdy take place to have the GSA project commence, failing which the project should be decertified, that the marketing agent license of Serene Dowdy be revoked. So they also suggest that the license of the marketing agent for the shrimp farm be revoked and legal proceedings be commenced against Serene Dowdy on the advice of the then Attorney General. Number 19, on October 31, 2018, notice that acceptance of GSA files was suspended until further notice was displayed on the CBI website. Number 20, by letter dated November the 30th, 2018, Mr. Dowdy was once more given time to account for GSA's funds received, failing which decertification of approved project status and revocation of marketing agent's license are to commence. Number 21, by email dated December the 10th, 2018, Mr. Dowdy responded to the letter of November 30th, 2018, citing delays in obtaining the lease, etc., as contributing to the late commencement of the project, as well as negative publicity. He also advised that he and his team needed to reorganize the GSA's project and come to appropriate terms. Now, that was in December 2018. Now, on Monday, the 20th, 2019, in an email from the new CEO of the CBI unit, Mr. Thomas Anthony, who, by the way, remains in that position to date, a demand letter was served. The letter was sent to members of the CBI committee. And this is Mr. Anthony sending this letter. And it reads, "Dear colleagues, attached is a draft response edited by the Attorney General to be submitted to Mr. Ford, ETAL, on the Grenada Sustainable Aquaculture GSA matter. We are requesting your approval to send those demanding payment from government in relation with GSA. Regards, Thomas F.L. Anthony, Chief Executive Officer, Grenada Citizenship by Investment Unit." So things been happening, things been documented, letters been sent, all of that took place. So it was not like Mr. Dowdy and them came and pick up the money and left with it. Now, after the demand letter, that was it for the CBI unit. Things was sent to the Attorney General's office, some of which they would have had already, because remember that letter with the documents that I read, that came from the Attorney General's office, from the Solicitor General, right? It became then the duty of the Attorney General's chambers to determine how they move forward, how they proceed legally. They are the ones with the power to take people to court on behalf of the government, right? The document that came from the AG's office via the Solicitor General was dated March the 10th, 2020. Now, after the demand letter, everything went to the Attorney General's office, as I said, the chambers, to handle. And as you can see from the documents, Mrs. Reed Ballantyne, the majority of the document was already submitted to the Attorney General's chambers, and they helped draft the letter, the demand letter. Now, we have Thomas Anthony, he's still there, the CEO. Mr. Mike Sylvester, the PS, he's still there in the Ministry of Finance. Now, Mr. Anthony, he was the CEO then, and the files are clearly with the Attorney General's chambers. The Attorney General now being Cindy daughter, Claudette, the letter, the demand letter, was dated the 10th of March 2022. Elections was the 23rd of June 2022. So all the old talk about shrimp farm and shrimp farm and shrimp farm, you have the documents. You now have the document that I'm sharing with you. You do something about it, Cindy daughter. You have it. It's in your position, in the Attorney General position. You do something about it. Government is a continuous. So what about Project Polaris and the multi-million-dollar loan from the Afri-Exim Bank? How much? 250,000 million, 250 million. I'll start over again. So what about Project Polaris and the multi-million-dollar loan from the Afri-Exim Bank? What is it? 250 million US dollars? They put it up, they pull it down. It's down, but we have a clip from the president of the president and chairman of the board of directors, Professor Benedict Oramha, the outgoing president, I should say.
Here in Grenada, we are co-financing a world-class tertiary hospital, estimated at the cost of about $250 million.
This announcement was made when Grenada hosted the 4th annual Afri-Exim Bank Forum at the end of July 2025. All expenses paid by the bank. Never mind this desperate administration who now has it on their achievements list. The first such forum was held in Barbados. Remember, Grenada hosted the 4th forum. In a release from the Afri-Exim Bank dated the 8th of the 8th, 2025, coming out of the Afro-Caribbean Trade and Investment Forum 2025, it reads, St. George's, Grenada, August the 8th, 2025. The 4th Afro-Caribbean Trade and Investment Forum has concluded with over 300 million US dollars in investment and trade deals signed on a robust communique affirming both regions' commitment to deeper collaboration. The two-day events co-hosted by African Export-Import Bank, Afri-Exim Bank, and the government of Grenada brought together more than 2,100 delegates from 80 countries, including 11 heads of states of government, representative of governments, private sector leaders, and development partners. Now, it goes on to break down the monies that was allotted to the different countries. Now, 100 million US dollars receivables discounting facility with Bahamas Stripping Group of Companies Limited for road and infrastructure works. USD 50 million education, construction, and rehabilitation climate-linked facility signed with the government of St. Kitts and Nevis. US dollars 61.25 million term loan for the Homewood Suites by Hilton Barbados. US dollars 40 million receivable facility for Cat Island Infrastructure Company Limited in the Bahamas. US dollars 40 million commercial port development agreement involving Gemini Integrated Commodities Trading Company Limited and the government of St. Kitts and Nevis. A memorandum of understanding with the Grenada Development Bank to promote SME development and trade flows. What we get is in a memorandum, a memorandum of understanding. And finally, no, two before the last, a strategic cooperation MOU with the Caribbean Telecommunication Union's advanced digital transformation. And finally, the Bank of the Bahamas Limited was also appointed as the Afrexim Bank Trade Finance intermediary, strengthening the financial ecosystem to support cross-border transactions. In a profound closing statement, Grenada's Prime Minister, Honorable Deacon Mitchell, reiterated the region's resolve to institutionalize its collaboration with Africa. We have to be very deliberate about creating institutions that will in fact create the type of trade, investment, banking, and financial relationships that we want to build for ourselves. The reality is what was created before us was meant to entrap us. And it went on. I read that to say to you that nowhere was the 250 million USD for Project Polaris mentioned. Nowhere there. And since then, really, we have heard nothing about Project Polaris. So curiosity is getting the better of me here now. What happened to the Project Polaris loan? Why wasn't it listed? Now, lately, I came across an article that where Fitch and Fitch Rating Inc., which is an American credited rating agency, it is one of those nationally recognized statistical rating organization designated by the US Securities and Exchange Commission, and is considered as being one of the big three credit rating agencies, along with Moody's and Standard & Poor's. Now, Fitch has downgraded the Afrexim Bank to a triple B. Interestingly, this Deacon Mitchell-led administration seemed to have latched on to Africa, to be more direct, Nigeria. I believe we have already received doctors from Nigeria, a country that has its very own, very poor health system. Let's hear this clip.
While this silent economic war rages on, something else is happening in the background. People are living in droves. If you want to know what hopelessness looks like, just stand outside a passport office in Nigeria. Thousands of young people sweating in the sun, holding forms, chasing documents. Some have spent their entire life savings just for the chance to leave. This is a direct consequence of Nigeria's insecurity, poor governance, and economic failure. A failure that has resulted in an unprecedented wave of emigration by its citizens, especially young people. We have seen mass exodus of doctors, engineers, bankers, even nurses. According to Nigeria's Immigration Service, over 2.1 million Nigerians emigrated in 2022 alone, and another 1.57 million left in just the first 9 months of 2023. This totals roughly 3.68 million people in 2 years, a huge outflow representing nearly 2% of Nigeria's population. The majority are youth in their 20s and 30s, students, young professionals, entrepreneurs, and even civil servants looking for better prospects abroad. But let's take a moment to think about what they are running from. We have university strikes that keep students out of class for 8 months at a time. A job market where over 50% of youth are either unemployed or underemployed. A country where graduating with a degree doesn't mean anything if you don't have connections. Where doctors earn less than $200 a month if they are lucky. It's not just that life is hard. It is that the system itself feels rigged against these people. And this isn't just bad for morale, it's devastating for the economy. As of 2023, the UK alone has over 12,000 Nigerian trained doctors registered and practicing, and the number continues to rise. The United States, Canada, and South Africa also host thousands of Nigerian doctors. The Nigerian Medical Association estimates over half of Nigeria's doctors now work outside the country. The situation for nurses and midwives is even more dire. More than 75,000 nurses left Nigeria between 2017 and 2022, with 15,000 leaving in 2023 alone. This outflow has left Nigeria's health system understaffed to a dangerous degree. In 2023, the health minister revealed only 55,000 doctors remained in Nigeria for a population of over 200 million people. The doctor-to-patient ratio is now over 1 to 10,000, far below the WHO recommended 1 to 600. Some state hospitals have had to shut entire wards because there are no doctors or nurses to staff them. The implications are grim. Maternal and infant mortality in Nigeria remain among the highest in the world, and the brain drain threatens to worsen these outcomes.
Are you listening? The ratio, doctor to patient, 1 to 10,000. Right? Now, this investigative journalist writes very credible and gives out very credible information, well-sounded content on Nigeria. So follow the state of Nigeria. And when I say state, I mean the conditions, the dire conditions in Nigeria. Let's continue.
Now, between 2015 and 2017, they said about 11.1 billion naira was allocated to the State House Clinic, more than double the entire budget of 16 teaching hospitals combined. Yet, presidents still opted to seek care abroad. Now, this is 16 teaching hospitals put together. Money that would have gone round to revamp 16 teaching hospitals was spent in one hospital, yet you are still not able to take treatment in that facility. Then what are we doing here? Because every time you see frequent medical trips by our leaders, right? And it signals to all citizens that local facilities are inadequate, reinforcing public mistrust in the system. How do you want us to approach this situation? How do you want regular Nigerians to approach this situation without raining insults, without cursing? How do you expect us as Nigerians to do that?
Conditions at the hospitals are at its worst. Nurses are striking over what they claim is a lack of government support.
Nigerian nurses began a strike on Wednesday over what they say is a lack of support for the healthcare sector. It's the first time nurses have gone on strike in the last 40 years in Africa's most populous nation. At the National Hospital Abuja, this ward was filled with patients, But the workstation remained empty. Obin Nangu was admitted with an injured leg.
I'm very serious pain. Nobody to attend to me.
Nurses like Olusanya Mopelola said the Nigerian government ignored their long working hours and staffing shortages.
We have suffered enough. We have suffered a lot. People are sick. And this is the same health sector that will take care. It's like we are taking care of people, but honestly, we are heroes unsung. Nobody wants to reckon with what nurses are going through. So we are grossly understaffed. The shortage is enormous and is telling on generality of the nurses.
The National Association of Nigerian Nurses and Midwives said the strike would last for a week and warned that they would continue if the government ignores their labor action. The union had given the Nigerian government a 15-day ultimatum before embarking on a strike.
Now, Nigeria is described as the world's most advanced failed state. Here in this clip.
Let's talk about Nigeria.
Security in Nigeria.
This was once Africa's largest economy. It had one of the strongest militaries on the continent. It had industries, real ones, exporting goods to the world. It had a public education system that shaped some of the brightest minds on the continent. Well, not anymore. Today, Nigeria is barely holding itself together. The schools are broken, hospitals are overwhelmed, the roads are unsafe, the army is losing control. It's like watching an elephant fall from a tree in slow motion, but the crash hasn't even happened yet. And the scariest part of that, the world isn't paying attention. These photos were taken from a recent attack in Nigeria's north central region. A village burned to the ground. The government called it a communal clash. But that's not what this is. This is terrorism. This is mass displacement. This is a government that can't or won't protect its people. From school children kidnapped by the hundreds, to farmers abandoning their lands, to bus trips that end in roadside executions, this is the new reality in Nigeria. But here's the question that kept haunting me. How does a country with so much potential fall apart like this, and no one sounds the alarm? So I started digging, and what I found was quite chilling. This isn't just about bad leadership or poverty, not even about the usual corruption narrative now. It's something way deeper. It's systemic, and in some ways, this is by design. In this episode, we're going to break down how Nigeria became what might be the world's most advanced failed state. We'll trace 4 key forces: the rise of insurgents and bandits, foreign economic sabotage, a massive youth brain drain, and
its economy is hanging by a thread, and a very thin thread.
Poverty exploded in the late 1980s and 1990s. According to one analysis, these IMF and World Bank policies accelerated decline in Nigeria and expanded the poverty cutting to include those previously above the poverty line. In other words, structural adjustment plunged even the middle class into hardship. The social costs in unemployment, reduced education, and healthcare funding set back Nigeria's development by decades. Although Nigeria's debts were partially forgiven in 2005, by 2010, the austerity-driven pattern of low investment in public services had already taken root. Back in 2010, crude oil was over $100 a barrel. Nigeria's economy was booming. In fact, by 2014, it became the largest economy in Africa. It was a moment of hope, one that didn't last. High crude prices early in the decade swelled government coffers, but also encouraged complacency and corruption. By 2014, a large portion of Nigeria's export earnings came from petroleum. When oil prices crashed in 2014 to 2015, Nigeria slid into recession in 2016 and severe dollar shortages. Western institutions stepped in with advice and support. The IMF urged Nigeria to devalue the naira and end fuel subsidies. Seeing this as fiscally unsustainable distortions, the Buhari administration began a massive borrowing campaign, and all that money came with strings attached. By 2017, under pressure from an unrelenting IMF push, Nigeria allowed a partial devaluation of the naira from 197 naira to the dollar to 305 naira to the dollar, but also resorted to complex multiple exchange rates to avoid full flotation. This model system led to arbitrage and did little to revive growth. Inflation and poverty kept climbing. The World Bank reported in 2022 that more than half of Nigerians, that is about 133 million people, now live in poverty, and that poverty rates soared in the past 6 years between 2016 and 2022. Nigeria overtook India as home to the world's largest extreme poor population. Now, for context, India has a population of 1.4 billion people compared to Nigeria's 227 million people. Despite these gloomy figures and the reality of citizens, the economic wizards in the Buhari's administration didn't relent in their borrowing campaign. External debt rose from about $35 billion in 2011 to over $85 billion by 2022. Debt service now consumes a huge share of government revenue, leaving little fiscal space for development.
Now, while Nigerians are suffering, their politicians are enriching themselves. Sounds familiar?
On the 28th of May 2023, a day before the inauguration of Nigerian President Mr. Bola Ahmed Tinubu, his wife and First Lady of Nigeria, Mrs. Oluremi Tinubu, said this:
Nigeria's wealth is the common wealth of all. It belongs to everyone. God has blessed my family. We don't need the wealth of Nigeria to survive, but to do the right thing.
Now, if you don't believe her, here's some proof for you. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is said to be worth several hundreds of millions of dollars. A vast real estate holdings, as well as investments scattered around energy and a handful of other sectors of the Nigerian economy. But it's not only the president's family that has done well for themselves now. Here is Nyesom Wike, the current minister of the Federal Capital Territory of Nigeria. He's said to be one of the richest former governors in Nigeria. Former Vice President Atiku Abubakar is said to own several properties in Dubai. And there are lots of other politicians with business holdings and investments scattered around the country. This has left me wondering, if politicians are just public servants, why are they so rich and the people they serve so poor? In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how these folks get to be so wealthy. We will look at the laws that have enabled some of these politicians to take advantage of the system and how this affects you, the average Nigerian. President Bola Tinubu worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Nyesom Wike worth millions of dollars. George Akume worth millions of dollars. Guess what all these men have in common? They are all career politicians who have been directly or indirectly involved in government since Nigeria's return to democracy in 1999. But there's another thing all three have in common that will be very relevant to our story much later, and that is they were all former governors of their respective states for 8 years. Now, while politics in Nigeria has become something for the highest bidder, there seems to be a reason why. That could be the high returns involved. And I'm not talking about the looting or embezzlement we immediately associate with politicians now. Rather, I'm talking about the insane salaries and allowances that these people accumulate throughout their time in office. Added to all of these benefits, some politicians have also found ways to build highly profitable companies from the ground up as a result of government contracts they get while in office. And when their time is up, they also get something called a severance package that is sometimes worth 300% of their basic salaries as presidents, governors, senators, or other political office holders. Now, 1.5 million naira monthly and still gets another 52 million naira in office running allowances. And what is the job of this senator again? Yes, they made the law that kept the minimum wage at 30,000 naira, while JAS is set at 1.5 million naira per month. But then something crazy happened. There's this body saddled with the responsibility of determining how much is appropriate for political office holders in Nigeria, including the president, vice president, governors, deputy governors, ministers, even commissioners, and to cap it all, the legislators inclusive. This body is known as the Revenue Mobilization Allocation and Fiscal Commission. Their job, among others, is to monitor the increase and disbursement of revenue from the Federation account and reviewing from time to time the amount being allocated to different things, especially salaries. What happened was that this body woke up one morning and said that they realized that Nigerian politicians were suffering too much. So they needed to adjust the salary structure to help these politicians survive the difficult times we live in. Yeah, I'm not kidding. Guess what? They proposed a 114% increase in the salaries of these political office holders, including the president, vice president, governors, lawmakers, as well as judicial office holders. Remember Tunde?
Now, in addition to the high salaries,
aside from the ridiculously high salaries paid out to Nigerian politicians every month, they also get some allowances like utilities, entertainment recess, personal assistant, vehicle fueling, duty tour, domestic staff, vehicle maintenance, constituency allowance, wardrobe allowance, household maintenance, newspaper, periodic allowances, and a lot more. For the senators, these allowances amount to 52 million naira every year. But the ridiculous wealth of these politicians didn't just come from their salaries and allowances alone. Since Nigeria's return to democracy in 1999, a lot of money has been allocated to something called constituency projects, recommended by these lawmakers. However, as a result of corruption, embezzlement, and other financial malpractices, these projects are not even carried out. For instance, you often hear of empowerment programs that get commissioned all the time. These items are sometimes hoarded by sponsors and not distributed until the next budget cycle, where in some cases now, the same items are rebudgeted and duplicated. In recent years, the budget of the zonal intervention projects has been 100 billion naira shared among the 469 lawmakers in the National Assembly. But the specific details on the projects, including project type, cost, and the target sector, are always kept secret. According to reports, the annual 100 billion naira is always shared on an 60-40% ratio by the two legislative chambers. The House of Representatives takes the bulk with 60 billion naira and the Senate takes 40 billion naira. This means the 360 members of the lower chamber have 60 billion to initiate, implement, or complete projects in their various constituencies, while the 109 members in the Senate have 40 billion to do the same. But the implementation is where the math changes. Only a fraction of the said amount budgeted for each chamber gets to the lawmakers. The fraction comes after a series of deductions are made. Starting with the leadership of the House now, out of the 40 billion naira budgeted for the Senate, it is said that the leadership of the chamber takes 20 billion to fund projects in their own constituencies. The remaining 20 billion goes to about 100 other members of the chamber. But you have to note here that the 20 billion naira special funding for the chamber's leadership does not exclude the said leadership from benefiting in the general fund, as they still nominate projects to be funded with the balance of 20 billion naira. Even though the projects are advertised in line with the Public Procurement Act, only contractors nominated by the lawmakers are often awarded these contracts. At times, some lawmakers nominate companies in which they have interest in, like companies belonging to friends and family members. In some cases, contractors awarded jobs only move the cash to the lawmakers' accounts, who nominated them for the contracts in the first place. And these contracts remain unimplemented. In one exclusive interview,
sounds familiar? Projects and programs budgeted for time and time again, budget after budget. Project 500, the contracts given to friends and families, the money is going back to the lawmakers nominating companies they have interest in. The cash are sometimes moved to the lawmakers' accounts who nominated them. Sounds like the Ministry of MIT and what is going on there, that Ministry of Mobilization, Implementation, and Transformation. These are some of the acts taking place in that ministry. People are given contracts, bloated contracts, and then they have to give some to the politician. Say, well, you have to give me a 2,000 or 3,000. This is not make-up stories. This is actual. Family and friends, bogus companies, putting it on names of other people so that they can get the government contracts without eye-opening, right? And so then the monies are going in their accounts. All sorts of bogus security companies and other companies. Yeah, how you call them, big equipments, like the tractors and trailers and so. Those families and of members of the cabinet. We have the cabinet secretary have several businesses that are getting government contracts. Surrogates of the NDC who helped out a little bit financially in the last election through statutory bodies are getting payback. Well, we're not going to touch. We are not going to go into to lotto and so today. We're going to take a break today because we're busy with the Africans, right? Let's hear the next clip.
how do they benefit from the funds? One of the means used is by inflating the budget of government agencies. For instance, the Small and Medium Enterprise Development Agency of Nigeria, an agency under the Ministry of Trade and Investment, had its budget upped to 14.85 billion from 11.02 billion. Similar suspicious appropriation can be seen in the budget of the Border Communities Development Agency, which is domiciled under the Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation. Lawmakers raised the agency's budget from the 3.73 billion proposed by former President Muhammadu Buhari to 5.46 billion naira. The Independent Corrupt Practices Commission has accused these two agencies of budget overpricing as a channel for embezzling funds. In August 2019, the ICPC recovered items such as motorbikes, grinding machines, and tricycles estimated to be worth 170 million naira, stored in a compound reportedly belonging to Senator Chukwuka Utazi, who is representing Enugu North Senatorial District in Enugu State. In another instance, in 2022, a report implicated a senator representing Benue North East Senatorial District, where the project he sponsored belonged to City Science and Technical Academy, a school he owns. In Abuja, a training and empowerment program for women and youths worth over 149.9 million naira was reportedly awarded to Aljabi Integrated Nigeria Limited, but against the due process policy of the federal government, as the company is said to be owned by a certain Sokodabo Hamza, a relative of the sponsoring lawmaker. In a similar case of abuse of office, a contract worth 199.9 million naira was said to have been awarded to Sinti Nigeria Limited by the Sokoto Rima Basin Authority in November 2020. It was later found that the company belongs to the sponsor of the project, a certain Jibril Barrel of Kano Senatorial District. Now,
the corruption continues.
But how does this affect you, the average Nigerian? On June 30th, 2023, the Debt Management Office announced Nigeria's public debt of 87.38 trillion naira. That is $113 billion. The figure represents an increase of 75.29% or 37.53 trillion naira compared to the 49.85 trillion naira recorded at the end of March 2023. This further highlights the state of Nigeria's economy. There are very few well-equipped hospitals to serve over 200 million citizens. But these politicians, even those out of office, still get medical allowance to allow them to travel to good hospitals with specialists abroad, while the average Nigerian is left to his fate. Security in the country is so poor that a sitting senator is threatening to resign. What becomes of the average Nigerian that doesn't have access to state resources to employ the services of police escorts or DSS to follow them about? Inflation is extremely high as the naira has lost over 40% of its value in 2023 alone. Nigerians can barely afford to buy onions to cook their meals. Now, if the people cannot eat, cannot go out, and keep dying from poor medical services, why are the few in control of the nation's resources allowed to keep enriching themselves in this manner? I guess I'll never know.
So now, the question is, why are the politicians here in Grenada enriching themselves while Grenadians cannot afford to buy onions to cook? Our people are struggling to buy basic food stuff and they're dying from poor health care whilst we pay in Mount Sinai 2.5 million USD annually. Annually. For what? The question is. For what? Whilst a few, the politicians and their families and friends, are enriching themselves. This here, my friends, is the playbook that is inspiring what our lawmakers is trying to emulate in our island. They are almost there. Giving them another term, crapo smoke we pipe. While Nigerians are mostly barred from the United Arab Emirates, the UAE, and need visas to travel to most international countries, the USA, Europe, Grenadians, or Grenada rather, is opening up their borders to Nigerians. Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell is speaking of giving them visa-free access to Grenada with a direct flight. Visa-free access with a direct flight to Grenada. All hell break loose on us. Folks, as I end, I want to speak to Sinti daughter through her to the Minister of Implementation, Andy Williams, the Minister of Infrastructure, Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell. If you look on your screen, you see a cradle. That is Woolwich Road. Now that cradle and the rocks that follows, that has been there for 2 years, almost 2 years, since we had some rain, and flash floods and slides and so. 2 years. That cradle and the rocks and the soil that went down in the back of that lady's house, that senior citizen's home. Look further and you'll see a bell of vine taking over the streets. That's further up Woolwich Road. I mean, just look at that in the street. Bush growing in the street of the town of St. George. And then the broken traffic light in the middle of what we would say downtown St. George's. They eventually cut it off and it has become a garbage bin. Just look at what is in the middle. And when I tell you the middle, I mean the middle. That is right there by Farm and Garden Center, where Scotiabank used to be, now Republic Bank. The marketplace is opposite right there. This is what? You have Claret, Peter David, Deacon Mitchell, Andy Williams. This is what the state of the town of St. George, all in that constituency, look like. And that's not all, but I just had to pull out those three. It's worse. It's all over the town of St. George. Folks, that's a wrap on today's episode of Simon Says. It's always a pleasure conversing with you, trying to keep them honest. Thank you for viewing yet another episode of Simon Says, where facts come first. I'm your host, Jenny Simon. See you next week, same time, same place. Bye now. Thank you for tuning in to Simon Says. To ensure that you never miss an episode, click subscribe and make sure to turn on the notifications by clicking on the notification bell icon. See you at the next episode.